There is a specific reason people spend years in therapy, get really good at understanding themselves, but don't feel like there has been an actual change. It's not because therapy failed them, but because awareness and change are two different mechanisms. In this video, I'm going to talk about why therapy and hypnotherapy actually do two different things, why self-aware people might be the ones that benefit the least from getting more insight, and how hypnotherapy could be the answer to their problem and help them put into place real change. Stick around because I am also going to get into something that I don't see being talked about enough, why this plays out differently for neurodivergent brains, and what actually worked for me. Let's first explain what I mean by awareness and change being different. So, when you're in regular talk therapy, you're going to talk with your therapist about what is going on in your life, and everything lies upon how self-aware you are and how quickly you get to what you think is the root cause of the problem. Now, the reason why I specifically worded it as what you think is the root of the problem and identifying the problem is because all of this is done through talking. This is a cognitive process. It is something that happens while you are conscious. It is using your left brain, if you will. The issue with that is that it has been found by researchers that 95% of our thoughts, actions, feelings, behaviors lie in the subconscious mind. If you're trying to put into action change when you don't have the right elements to implement change and you haven't identified them, it is going to be very difficult. This is not impossible, but it will take a long time. Now, hypnotherapy on the other side is therapy using hypnosis that gets directly into your subconscious to find the root cause. And the great thing about hypnotherapy is that you don't need to have somewhat of an inkling or an idea of what caused the problem, because your subconscious already knows and it's going to bring it forward for you. With hypnotherapy, you don't need to exactly know what is your problem or what is your pattern. You can just come in and say that you've got headaches and you've been having a lot of headaches and nothing really explains it, and we will find the root cause of that. That is the great thing about hypnotherapy. The other great perk of hypnotherapy is that while we identify what caused the behavior we want to change, we can directly implement a new belief system directly in the subconscious. And it's easier to implement change in the subconscious rather than in the conscious mind. If you really think about it, when you try and walk, do you try and walk or do you just walk? It's subconscious, right? So this is why change is easier in the subconscious and quite difficult in the conscious mind, because it takes energy and willpower to put it into place, whereas in the subconscious, those two elements don't really matter, because this is where all of the wiring, all of how you work as an individual, as a person, is put into place. Now, to get a little bit more personal, the reason why I am a very big fan of hypnotherapy is obviously because I'm a hypnotherapist myself, but also because I did try regular talk therapy. I tried BetterHelp back in 2022, I believe. I liked the therapist I worked with just fine, but as someone who's pretty self-aware on a regular basis, it didn't take long for us to start talking around and not find anything new, because I just pretty much knew it already. So I ended up, I think, total spending a year doing regular talk therapy that in the end, when I trained as a hypnotherapist, got solved in about one session. In terms of effectiveness, I 100% believe that hypnotherapy is the better option, because If you don't have the time or the patience to go to several sessions for months and years on end, hypnotherapy is going to get there way quicker. Now, I'm not saying that regular talk therapy isn't effective. Sometimes you just need to talk to someone, you just need to let it all out. And I think talk therapy is great for that. For people who are not as self-aware, talk therapy will bring into awareness some things that they're experiencing, some of their problem. So that is perfectly fine. I'm not saying that talk therapy doesn't work at all. I'm just saying comparatively to hypnotherapy or even like other procedures like lithotherapy or somatic therapies, it's not as quick, it's not as deep. If you really want to know what a hypnotherapy session looks like, do ask in the comments, or if you have any questions. I won't go into depth like right now, but I can tell you that anything that has a psychological and emotional root is something that can be worked on during hypnotherapy sessions. By that I mean issues with sleep, with eating, with anxiety, phobias, with confidence, focus, etc., etc. You can go on my website and check out what issues exactly we can work on, but it is pretty broad. Now let's get to the neurodivergent aspect of it all. I have done 2 self-assessment tools that are clinically approved and found out I am both ADHD and on the spectrum, which actually was pretty noticeable that I was neurodivergent to some regard. As I said, hypnotherapy was very effective for me because I'm already pretty self-aware, so I could change directly what I wanted to change. The small thing I will say, the small caveat to hypnotherapy, is that to be able to put into place an actual change that requires a routine, I think is difficult when one is neurodivergent, because I won't speak to people who only are on the spectrum because I don't have that experience, but I do know that anything that is that requires organization, that requires, frankly, executive functions, are things that I personally struggle with. And I have found that during hypnotherapy, if I am being told you're going to be able to sort out your emails, I was able to have an easier time sorting out my emails. But it wasn't something compared to someone who is not neurodivergent is able to do. So just want to preface that. And I think personally, with my own experience testing out some things, that another modality actually works really well if you have issues with grounding, which I do, and that is using lithotherapy, which is using minerals and crystals to heal emotional wounds, as well as to shift your energetic field, your energy. I have a free discovery call that is half an hour where we can just talk and see if it matches up and if I am someone who can actually help you. So if you're interested in that, don't hesitate to check it out. The link will be in the description as well as in the pinned comment. Another thing I wanted to say is that since I discovered hypnotherapy, it has become something that has animated me, and with the people that I've worked on and been able to witness the change of how much lighter they feel now, I'm just blown away by it. So I would love to be able to help you with whatever it is that you're struggling with or that you want to change. So don't hesitate to book your spot. The discovery call is free. Another thing I would like to say too before we finish this video is that a lot of illnesses and sicknesses have an emotional root and component to it. So if you think, well, I don't have a particularly like psychological emotional problem, still book that call. You never know. I've worked with people who have had headaches, people who have had stomach aches. Again, it was not something that was biological in terms of it wasn't a biological problem, it was an emotional problem that stemmed from childhood. Usually those things are like very long repressed emotions, things as such. Also, for people who are not particularly verbose or talkative. And I think that's the reason why a lot of men don't go to therapy, because it's about to talk about your feelings, but like you don't really know what you're feeling or why you're feeling it or what's going on. Because again, boys aren't taught to be very expressive in that regard growing up. So it's no surprise that when they are adults, men struggle with this a little bit. I will say that modalities like hypnotherapy are very effective in such cases when you're not used to talk about feelings, about yourself, because your mind already knows everything that is supposed to be known. So this is why I just love hypnotherapy, and I hope that you're going to give it a try too, because it has genuinely completely transformed my life, and this is why I want to share it with everyone.